Today I'm going to show you my unusual technique for building bridge abutments on my N-scale layout. You may want to try this technique yourself. If you're a model railroader, then you've come to the right place. I'm Roy Smith. Thanks for joining me. You are now watching the second in a series of videos about creating new scenery at the west end of Echo Canyon on my layout. In my previous video in this series, I told you how and why I changed my track plan at Echo Canyon, and I told you how I am now modifying my scenery there. I will put a link to that video down below. All right, let's go over to Echo Canyon so I can show you what I'm doing over there. This is where I've been working. In a moment, I'm going to show you exactly how I built abutments for the bridges that cross Echo Creek. As I mentioned in the last video, I used cork roadbed to construct my bridge abutments. Unorthodox? You bet, but I guarantee this technique works, as you will see. Of course, I could have built the abutments using styrene just like real model railroaders do. I could have used commercial abutment kits, such as those made from resin castings, as I used over at my Green River Bridge. Or perhaps I could have built the abutments using resin 3D printing if I had such a printer. But instead, I wanted to use cork roadbed to build the abutments, just as I have done for projects elsewhere on my layout. I will show you some of those projects in a moment. To some extent, this small bridge that crosses a stream in Echo Canyon inspired me. In fact, there are many examples on the prototype from which I could have chosen, but I did want my abutments to appear as if they had been built from concrete rather than stone or other materials. So here's how I did it. First, I carved a base from the abutments out of styrofoam. Incidentally, I also carved an embankment for the creek out of styrofoam to hide the bend in the creek. I will talk more about this in my next video. Then I cut some cork in the shape of the abutments. I glued the cork to the styrofoam. I covered the cork with a thin coating of spackling paste, and after the spackling dried, I painted the abutments the color of concrete. This isn't the first time I've used cork roadbed in an unusual way. Let me show you just a few examples of how I've used it in other projects. I have used it to create highways, such as you see here at Echo Canyon Road. I have used it to create fascia instead of masonite, as you see here at Emory Bridge. And I have used it between yard tracks here, as you see here at Evanston, to create the illusion that the yard tracks, which I still haven't ballasted, are lower than the mainline tracks. I have done some weathering on the abutments using weathering powders, but I'm not done with the weathering. And of course I need to weather the bridges themselves. I have added some vegetation around the abutments, but I'm not finished with the vegetation and small trees. And I may add wing walls at the tops of the abutments to hold the ballast on the tracks in place when I do ballast the tracks. I am not a construction engineer, so what I have done may not be prototypical, but I am pleased with the results. And I can promise you this, it's an easy and quick way to build abutments. I believe the results are what the legendary model railroader Alan McClellan called good enough, unless you're a rivet counter. I still have a lot of work to do on the west end of Echo Canyon, but I think I have created a signature scene here where the bridges cross Echo Canyon, because the scene will attract attention and will create interest. In my next episode, I plan to show you how I created the illusion that I changed the curve in the creek. Now, if you haven't seen my last video, New Scenery at Echo Canyon, I urge you to go watch it. This link will take you to it. I'm Roy Smith. I will see you over there.